Coming to you from Orange County, California, where it puts the mask on its skin, or else it gets phase one again. I'm RJ Balde, and this is the TRICHOMES Hashitout podcast. On this show, we feature conversations about trending cannabis topics. We also bring in industry insiders and influencers to discuss their point of view. In this episode, I'll be talking to Dr. Tim Shu about his stepping into research of the health benefits for CBD on pets, something that no veterinarians were doing at the time. We'll also talk about how that led to the company he founded, promoting education in the veterinary and pet owner communities, and much more. Without further ado, let's hash it out. Today, I am joined by Dr. Tim Shu, founder and CEO of Vet CBD, a company that formulates full-spectrum CBD and cannabis-derived tinctures designed for pets with conditions from anxiety to arthritis and more. Dr. Shu, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you. Where are you coming to us from virtually?
Los Angeles, California.
LA. Ooh, okay. How has the shift back to phase one been for you?
It's interesting. First, everything was closed, then things opened up, and now everything's closed again. So who knows how long this cycle is going to continue? But hopefully, we can see some progress. Hope everyone's staying healthy out there.
Yeah. A lot of I'm in Orange County, and my county has been getting a lot of heat for, I guess, for lack of a better term, being largely responsible for this stuff, for putting a lot of pressure on the governor to start phased reopenings and stuff. And here we are now. So on behalf of Orange County, I apologize.
Yeah, it's a very interesting dichotomy between LA County and Orange County. But we're all in this together. So I hope we're able to all find a way to be able to work together to get through this.
No doubt, man. The only word I can think of for it is unprecedented, which in and of itself sort of means that I don't really have any words for it, because this is unlike anything that we have ever experienced. But I am glad that we still have these opportunities to connect virtually and have these important conversations. So thank you. In light of everything that you probably have going on, thank you for taking the time to sit down with me for a while and have a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Education is one of the biggest focuses for us, and it's a crucial part of this industry. And so I'm always happy to be able to talk about cannabis and hemp and the endocannabinoid system.
Absolutely. So I mentioned you're the CEO and founder of Vet CBD, which was founded in, if I have this correct, it was late 2014, sort of 2015, around that area.
Yeah. So it's been over 5 years for us now. So it's been quite a journey.
So yeah, you hopped in about 5 years ago. How has the market changed since you got into the field 5 years ago?
It's really night and day difference, in terms of the way that regulation has been implemented. But there's a lot of really great things. For example, on the cannabis side of things, the testing requirements make it so that legal cannabis products, are basically tested more stringently than the food and the water that we consume. Every single batch of cannabis product has to be tested for potency to ensure label accuracy, pesticides, solvents, heavy metals, microbials, and mycotoxins. And for us, we actually do a triple testing process. So that means we go even above and beyond that. So for all the source ingredients that we bring in, whether it's the organic extra virgin olive oil or the cannabis extract, we'll test that to make sure it's clean starting material to begin with. And then the manufacturing process, we'll do additional testing. And then finally, we'll do the state mandated batch testing at the end. So we test 3 times in a 3-stage manner. And it's a lot of testing, but we do it so that way we can make sure that we're producing safe, clean, consistent product.
Mm-hmm. And now on the Vet CBD website, vetcbd.com, for those of you who are listening, it says that you develop the dosages for your pet tinctures by weight for each specific patient, and that every batch, like you said, is tested by state certified laboratories in accordance with California cannabis testing regulations. Now, California is notorious for having hella regulations, and it's a very lengthy process to become in compliance with the state. So, is all of that testing mandated by the state, or is that something that you decided to take on just to ensure the quality on your end, or is it both?
Yeah, it's a mix of both. So the final batch testing, that's what's mandated by the state,
Mm-hmm.
but the additional testing that we do throughout the process is something that we've implemented, and that's just from the experience that we've had over the past 5 years. That the testing it throughout the process is the best way to make sure that we're getting clean, safe, consistent material to begin with, and that we're getting good material at the end. So testing thoroughly,
Mm-hmm.
extensively, that's something that we definitely do.
Totally. And how long ago did you start your veterinary practice?
Well, I started practicing as a veterinarian in 2009, and
Gotcha.
I spent time doing general emergency and critical care.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2015, I actually retired from practice to be able to do the cannabinoid therapeutics for animals full time.
Mm, gotcha. I want to talk about that because one of Vet CBD's sort of main pillars is really focusing on that educational aspect of things. Before you decided to dive into this, it wasn't really anything that was talked about in the veterinary community as a whole, like talking about the endocannabinoid system within pets, which, pets have one just like humans have one. It also says on the website that you have dosing guidelines that are provided on the packaging. Owners are recommended to start with a smaller amount to see how their pet responds. How do you ensure that in your patients that they don't, go too hard too soon?
Yeah, so in terms of dosing for cannabis products, both on
Mm-hmm.
the human and animal side, the general mantra
Mm-hmm.
is to go low and start slow. And
Sure.
one of the reasons for that is for safety purposes. You never
Mm-hmm.
want to go the other direction. Doesn't make sense, right? You never start high and then figure out, well, that's too much, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty much everything in life, right? You start at a smaller amount and then gradually increase it as necessary. Because when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to therapeutics, what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out the lowest dose that provides the maximum benefits. That way we know that we're not using too much, and that way we know that we're going to get the maximum benefits at the appropriate level.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So that education again is so paramount to have, especially for something that is, I mean, relatively new. I mean, in the terms of the cannabis space, 5 years is a pretty long time, but in the grand scheme of things, it's still a relatively new, sort of space. Very, very tumultuous, very volatile still. And in a podcast you did with Civilized, you said that, you've talked to so many clients over the years that have said that they tried to talk to a veterinarian about this, and they either said that they didn't have any information about it or they didn't feel comfortable discussing it. And you said that that is sort of doing a disservice because if people aren't getting their information from the veterinarians, they're going to look online and they're going to ask their friends and family and people that aren't necessarily medical professionals. Um, and then you also said in a Reddit AMA 2 years ago that the reason that there's a stigma in the cannabis or about cannabis in the veterinarian community is simply the education. So, what educational techniques are you employing to focus on that and to change that discussion?
Yeah, so let me just that was a lot to unpack, so I'll break it down.
Sure, sure.
You know,
Yeah.
the thing that's fascinating is the discovery of the endocannabinoid system is probably the most important medical discovery in our lifetimes. It's really
Hmm.
in the 90s that the endocannabinoid system was discovered. And it's just as crucial as the endocrine system or the any other bodily system. It is a major bodily system that is
Hmm.
responsible for homeostasis and balance in the body. It's present all throughout vertebrates, so that includes humans, mammals, birds,
Hmm.
fish, reptiles. So
Hmm.
throughout the animal kingdom, we have an endocannabinoid system, and this is not a new system that was it just when we found it, it was there. This is a system that has existed for millions and millions and millions of years. We just happened to finally discover it and learn about it starting from the 90s, because scientists were trying to figure out what THC and other cannabinoids were interacting with to produce the effects that they have, and they
Hmm.
found this endocannabinoid system, and it's been an amazing discovery. Now, the issue is that medical schools and veterinary schools are still not really teaching about it. And in 5 to 10 years, we're going to look back and say, that was so crazy that we knew the endocannabinoid system exists, but we didn't teach our medical professionals about it. And for me,
Hmm.
that's as ludicrous as going through medical or veterinary school and not learning about the endocrine system. The endocrine
Hmm.
system is a system that creates and regulates your body's hormones.
Hmm.
And so, there's a huge educational component that's just been missing. I talk to veterinarians, I talk to doctors, I talk to nurses, and these are recent graduates, and I ask them, how much of the endocannabinoid system did they learn about when they were in school? And more often than not, the answer is none. They've never even heard of it. And
Hmm.
so we're really far behind in terms of educating our medical professionals about the endocannabinoid system. And the problem with that is that they, in turn, are not going to be able to provide the medical knowledge and information that their clients are going to be asking about. And so we really need to be able to focus on educating our medical professionals, who in turn are able to then educate their patients and their clients, because really that's where that information should be coming from. I've stated before that if that information is not coming from the medical professionals, then it's going to be coming from other sources like internet, like friends and family. And because the reality is that a lot of people out there have heard about the therapeutic benefits of cannabis and hemp, and those benefits are real. We're seeing more and more clinical studies documenting those benefits in both humans and animals. And people ultimately they want to be able to improve their lives, and they want to be able to improve the lives of their pets. Somebody that has a pet that is having seizures from epilepsy, that is resistant
Hmm.
to traditional pharmaceuticals, they're going to continue to look for a way, when they keep hearing these news stories about things like CBD being able to control seizures. So, really what we need to do is we need to make it so that medical professionals are, first and foremost, educated about this subject. And then second, that they're protected and allowed to be able to discuss these topics with their patients and clients.
Hmm. Why do you think it takes so long for the educational curriculum to catch up?
It's been such a taboo subject. It's been
Mm.
stigmatized. And,
Hmm.
going back to why cannabis is Schedule 1, why it's federally illegal in the first place, is a entirely different podcast. But
Sure.
the reality is there is no good reason for cannabis to be Schedule 1. There's no good reason for cannabis to be illegal.
Right.
But that's where we're at right now. And so, a lot of the schools, they don't want to touch that subject,
Hmm.
because it gets them outside of their comfort zone a lot of time.
Sure. In that same interview, you said that you didn't really start getting questions about incorporating cannabinoids into pet healthcare until you started the company Vet CBD again in 2014/2015. what was it that piqued your personal interest into looking into CBD for pets?
Yeah, there's been a lot of established uses for humans for a number of
Sure.
decades.
Mm-hmm.
California's medical cannabis program for humans, goes all the way back to 1996, and so for me as a healthcare professional, I have a moral and ethical obligation to review, to pursue all potential therapeutic modalities for patients. And my viewpoint is that we have to have a critical assessment, and we have to think critically about these potential modalities. One, to be able to provide that information to pet owners, and then also,
Mm-hmm.
if it works, if it's of benefit to them, to be able to provide that benefit itself. Because really, it's one thing to be able to say, hey, I think this would be beneficial for your pet. I think it could really improve their quality of life, or even save their life. But you know what? I don't know how you can get it. I mean, that does them no good, right?
Yeah, right.
And so, for me, it was twofold, right? It was looking at the information out there, being able to validate that information and present it to the pet owners, but then also being able to present them the actual product that they would actually be able to use to improve their pets' lives.
Yeah, and going back to the importance of patients having a resource via medical professionals to get this accurate information, I think that now that's more important than ever because we're living very much in a golden age of information. We have so much information available at our fingertips, like you said, through the internet and through things like that, hearing it from our friends and family. But we're also equally in a golden age of misinformation where you can find pretty much anything that supports whatever you want to believe on the internet. And then especially, mix that in with everyone staying home and being online more often and kind of just like falling into all these sorts of rabbit holes. It's easy for people, I think, to get lost in the sauce nowadays, and it's more difficult now to parse through the actual information and the misinformation online. Have you experienced that as well?
Yeah, one of the things that we've seen during this, the rise of the digital age is the quantity of information that's out there has been growing at an exponential pace. Now, the issue is qualifying that information and figuring out what is actually scientifically valid. And so that's an issue that I've seen over the years, is that there's whatever your viewpoint is, you can find something to support that viewpoint. And
Mm-hmm.
I've heard, read, and seen a lot of things that say cannabis is a cure-all, and that it can fix anything and everything. And that's not true. That's not the case, and it's not a panacea. Now, it is very, very good at doing a number of things, and we're learning about more potential uses for cannabis. But
Mm-hmm.
it's important to be able to present scientifically valid and accurate information. And that's where we really need to be able to empower the doctors to be able to do that. Because when I was in practice, I would hear it all the time. Clients would come in and say, I read this on the internet, and you would have to, as the medical professional, you would have to be the one to help them understand, okay, this is valid information, this is not valid information. And the issue that we're seeing right now with cannabis and hemp and cannabinoid therapeutics is that when pet owners and when patients are going to their doctors, they're saying, I heard this, I read this. A lot of times the doctors don't feel comfortable talking to these pet owners or patients, either because they weren't trained and they don't have that information, or because they're afraid of legal repercussions if they were to discuss things like cannabis or the endocannabinoid system. And that's really doing a disservice to the people that need it the most.
Yeah, that's very potentially dangerous. But that I feel like that could potentially be life-threatening almost, depending on the situation. If you feel restricted to share that sort of information, which could very much be beneficial to someone's pet's life, like you said, that is such a major disservice to your clientele, to your patients. Because we look to the medical professionals to tell us what's going on in with our health, with our pets' health. Now more than ever, we're looking toward medical professionals, but at the same time, now more than ever, there are people questioning medical professionals, and their better professional judgment. So, have you ever experienced, say, like any pushback from a patient who may not agree with, like, might be coming in with a certain viewpoint, some certain information that they might have found, and then you're there to sort of refute it and sort of differentiate what is factual and what is not? Have you experienced any sort of conflict as a result of that?
Well, so I would see this in practice a lot when I was in practice.
Sure.
People would, their pet would have a diagnosis and they would say, I read that, this could be beneficial or that could be beneficial. And, my
Mm-hmm.
role was to provide them the scientific and medical perspective of it, and to say that, there either has been or has not been any evidence that, this modality benefits, this condition. So, we see that on the cannabis side of things as well, because, for pretty much any condition out there, you can probably find an article that says that, cannabis can treat this or cure this condition. And, for us as a company, one of the important things is that we educate the consumers and let them know that, based off of the scientific evidence out there, the claim is either supported or not supported.
Sure. Did you hear? There was a former football player who was advocating nonstop that he thought his cannabis derived products of this company that he works for was marketing them as a cure for the coronavirus. Did you hear that?
I mean, I've heard, there's been a lot of talk about cannabis and, coronavirus. And, I think people are desperate in terms of, looking for solutions. I think the whole world is looking for solutions,
Sure. Mm-hmm.
and when that happens, people tend to grasp at straws.
Mm.
Now, is there a component of cannabis that may be beneficial for helping patients that are affected by coronavirus?
Mm.
I don't think we know yet. I think that's the reality.
Mm-hmm.
Is that certainly there's a lot of anti-inflammatory components of cannabis,
Mm.
and we know that excessive inflammation can be harmful and damaging. But it's too soon. It's too soon to be able to say one way or another. And anything else, if it's not backed by scientifically valid information, I would approach that cautiously.
Sure. And I remember hearing also that, like, back in March when all of this was starting to go down, and we were just starting to gain a little bit of information about COVID-19 here and there. Back in March, it was like, oh, it's humans only, it doesn't transmit to animals. And then I remember, like, a few months later, they were like, oh yeah, there was like a dog that caught it. Do you know if like our pets can catch coronavirus or not?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, because there's initially, some health organizations, they said no, there's no evidence of that. Then there were some, articles stating that, they found some cats tested positive,
Mm-hmm.
and then a couple articles coming out saying that there were some dogs that tested positive.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from that, I haven't heard anything else.
Okay.
So in terms of you know that information, I would just, it's an ongoing process. And I don't think that we have enough information about a lot of things to be able to say definitively one way or another. But, certainly practicing social distancing, regardless is going to be, helpful for everybody. I don't have enough information on that to be able to appropriately weigh in.
Understood. And I am much more happy with that answer than someone who would just, it's always important for people to not be shy to say, I don't know. I feel like that sometimes people can see that as like a sign of weakness or a sign of like challenges their intellect or whatever. And I'm like, no, like not knowing, you need to not know in order to know, right? So you need to know what you don't know in order to then find that out. So I respect that answer. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, you bring up a really good point. Yeah, I was just saying that you do bring up a really good point. Is that the process of learning is a lifelong process, and the more that we realize that we don't know, the more it pushes on us towards a path to knowledge.
Yeah. Now, getting back here to Vet CBD, when I was researching Vet CBD, I came across two websites. I came across Vet CBD and then Dr. Shu's Pet Care. The websites are kind of similar. So are those the same thing or are those separate entities?
So what Vet CBD is that's our cannabis line.
Got it.
And then Dr. Shu's Pet Care, we're actually rebranding and relaunching that as our Vet CBD hemp line.
Got it. Okay, cool. What do you have a timeline of when that relaunch might be?
Yeah. So that's actually in the works right now, and so
Nice.
that is scheduled for launch at the beginning of August this year.
Nice. Okay. So coming up quick then.
Yeah, we're excited, and so people can visit the website vetcbdhemp.com. The great thing about the hemp side of things is that we're able to ship the product directly to them.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about that too because so the Vet CBD products are available in dispensaries, right? You partner with local dispensaries.
Right.
Gotcha. And then you just said the Vet CBD hemp that'll be available to be shipped nationwide and worldwide, which is awesome. Now the pet industry now has a vast lineup of product lines and companies that sell hemp or CBD or other cannabis derived products geared toward pets. Now, what sets Vet CBD out from the rest is that the products, like we said, are available in licensed cannabis dispensaries. So, what advantages do you see that there are to having them available in dispensaries? And does that at all hinder your business while there are other products that are available to buy online or in a wider array of retail stores, at least for now, until you launch your Vet CBD hemp?
Yeah, it's a good question because on the licensed cannabis side of things, everything is regulated, and that includes testing. So, when you're purchasing a cannabis product from a legal licensed dispensary, you know that you're going to be getting safe, clean, consistent product. On the hemp side of things, there's no regulation for testing that final product. And so, what studies over the years have found is in hemp CBD products, the label accuracy often is quite variable. For example, on the cannabis side of things, whatever your label states, you cannot be off by more than 10% from that label. And what studies have found over the year on the hemp side of things is that because there's not that mandate to test that final product, is that a lot of products are outside of that 10 or 20% range of what's stated on the label. And some products actually don't contain any CBD or cannabinoids at all. One of the areas of confusion for a lot of consumers is they hear about hemp, but hemp is it's not just one aspect. And what I mean by that is the cannabis plant or the hemp plant. Hemp is cannabis. It just the semantics get a little bit tricky there, but hemp, you can extract fiber, you can extract cannabinoids, you can also extract hemp seed oil. And so that's where a lot of confusion is so sometimes people will purchase a hemp oil product, but they don't realize that they've purchased a hemp seed oil product that doesn't contain any cannabinoids. The hemp seed oil is extracted from the seeds of the hemp plant. It's a very nutritious oil, but it doesn't actually contain cannabinoids. The cannabinoids are extracted from the trichomes in the flowers and the surrounding leaves. So very, very different products. And that's where some of the confusion lies. And that's some of the difficulties with the hemp side of things. But, that's where education is a key component.
Yeah, certainly. And that's why I think it's so great that you have really put a focus on that education, because there are many people who are new to hemp or are new to CBD or sort of trying cannabis derived products as a replacement for their traditional pharmaceuticals or different prescribed drugs for themselves and for their pets. It just comes back to this whole thing that we're talking about education and making sure that information is available to the patients, because like you said, like hemp is such a versatile plant. You can derive so many different things from it, from the plant, from the seeds. And so it's so important that people know what they're getting, because, the labeling and the marketing is really, I've heard it from a lot of people who are in marketing for hemp and cannabis derived products. It's just a mess. It's a hot mess.
Yeah, it gets really, really tricky, especially when you're talking about things, for example, like full spectrum, broad spectrum.
Yeah.
Isolate.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
The average consumer, they have heard of CBD, but they don't know the difference between a full spectrum CBD product versus a CBD product that's made from CBD isolate. And so, again, the education component is really going to be, what's important now and moving forward.
Mm-hmm. And I saw this also on the Vet CBD website. I think the most recent one was in February. You held an adoption event. Is that right?
Yeah. So, really before COVID, the thing that we love to do is we love to be able to support shelters and rescue groups. And, so for us, being able to combine the best of both worlds in terms of, cannabis and also pets, we promote a lot of rescue groups and shelters and, throw events with them and, raise money for them. And we're going to be doing that on the hemp side of things as well. On the hemp side, we're able to do a lot more, which is great. So we've got a program coming out that's called a 1-for-1 program. And basically what it's going to be is that for every bottle of tincture that's purchased through our website, we're going to donate one to a rescue group. So that way, those animals that are in need are able to get the support, the comfort, and the relief that they so desperately desire.
I love that. I love that. Do you have pets at home?
Yes, I've got 2 dogs.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, I know you mentioned the other one was trying to be a guest in the podcast. You had to move them to another room.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Do they take the Vet CBD products?
Yeah. I've got an older one. He's about 12 years old now, and he's a bigger dog.
Oh,
And
sure.
so, I'll use it for joint support. And then, every now and then he'll actually get some neck pain. Once I start getting them back onto the Vet CBD, the cannabis, that really helps with it. So, because cannabis is can be very effective for things like pain, whether it's chronic pain or neuropathic pain. And it's some really interesting research out there that can show that shows that cannabinoids are effective for things like neural inflammation and neurodegenerative disorders as well. So that's a little bit off topic, but just
All good.
interesting stuff.
Yeah. For those of you listening, there's a lot of that information on the vetcbd.com like blog section. If you want to read more about like the scientific studies and the efficacy behind these cannabis products for certain conditions in your pets, definitely check out the blog section of vetcbd.com because it was very enlightening for me. We mentioned this earlier. I have a dog. Her name is Rocket, and we adopted her from an animal shelter in Detroit, but she first came from Tennessee, and she was just abandoned in the street in Tennessee, and she deals with a fair amount of anxiety. She has a little bit of separation anxiety. She has just overall anxiety from loud noises if we're walking or anything like that. Any sort of sudden noise or sudden movement. Sometimes she can be a little trepidatious. And dude, the 4th of July fireworks, that whole month of fireworks was a nightmare. And I still apologize to Rocket for her having to deal with all that, man.
Yeah, you bring up a really great point, is that anxiety and stress are something that a lot of animals experience, and especially around July 4th, because out here in LA, we refer to it as fireworks season because it's not just for a day. It's really the month before July 4th and the month after July 4th. There's just random fireworks going off, and this can cause a lot of stress and anxiety in these pets. And one of the amazing things that we've seen over the years is the ability for CBD to be able to relieve anxiety and stress. This has been very well documented in human studies and also some preclinical trials, looking at lab animals like mice and rats. But the busiest time of year for us as a company is around July 4th because of all the pet owners that are looking for stress relief, anxiety relief for their animals. And CBD has been quite literally a lifesaver for a lot of these pets, because a lot of people don't know, but July 5th is the busiest time of year for animal shelters. The reason why is because the night before, on July 4th, all the animals are trying to run away from the noises. And so a lot of them end up in the streets, and the next day, the animal shelters are just packed with all the animals that have ran away the night before.
That's so sad to think about. I feel so bad for like during this time. I just feel so bad for Rocket, for everybody. Like almost everyone in my apartment complex has dogs, and like it was just a whole different energy. I don't know. Did they feel like particularly more fireworks for you this year? I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I felt like there were way more this year than usual.
Well, it's that's a lot of people have been telling me that, and for us, I mean, I'm used to just hearing random fireworks,
just random explosions, just at any given time.
yeah, and if anyone's ever been in LA on July 4th, that night sounds like a war zone. It's nonstop, and it's just constantly going off. And it's very, very stressful for our pets.
Yeah. Now, in your experience, how have you noticed the needs and behaviors of pets change during the pandemic since all the humans are staying home? And what do you anticipate might happen once that stops and everyone is now gone again for 8 to 10 hours a day?
Yeah, what we've seen is, that owners, now that they're spending more time with their pets, they are able to pay more attention to their needs. Whereas before they may not have realized, certain aspects about their pet's health. But now that they're spending all day with them, they understand, maybe that they have a limp or they have some anxiety issues. And so they're better able to address that. What that looks like, post-COVID, I don't think anyone really knows, because one of the biggest questions is, how much of that workforce is going to actually go back into the offices, and, how many people are going to continue working remotely? Because I think what the world has seen is that a lot of jobs are able to be done remotely. And people love that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Nobody wants to sit in traffic for 2 to 3 hours every single day. And so what that post-COVID economy looks like, no one really knows. But we'll be there to support the pets and their owners however we can.
There's so much uncertainty, man. But I thank you very much for the work that you're doing to keep our pets healthy and to keep them thriving and happy. Before we go here, man, where can our listeners find the work that you're doing through Vet CBD, find the work that you're doing just in general, and keep up with you?
Yeah, they can visit our website, vetcbd.com, or the new hemp line that we're launching, vetcbdhemp.com. And then, we've got our social media links on there. And if they have any questions, we're always available to help out. We've got veterinary nurses on staff, so we're a team of veterinary professionals. So they can always email us or call us to be able to talk to our veterinary nurses. If they want to talk to me, I'm more than happy to do so as well.
Right on, man. I appreciate that, dude. And thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation with me. I really admire the work that you're doing and your quest to spread this information and to promote this education. It's really important. And I, like many who have experienced this so far or tried your product so far, thank you for the work that you're doing.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's, what I always tell people is that in terms of the therapeutic potential of cannabis and hemp, we're at the very, very tip of a very, very large iceberg. One that we don't even know how big this iceberg is. But we know
Sure.
that, the lives of both people and animals are going to be changed and improved around the world through this wonderful plant.
Love it, man. So awesome. Keep up the good work. And, maybe once we're out of phase 1 again, maybe we can have a round 2 and have a conversation, perhaps in person, even if it's from 10 feet away. And maybe talk about some of the stuff we didn't get to cover today.
Sounds good. I'd love to do it.
Right on.
Thanks, RJ. Take care.
My thanks again to Dr. Tim Hsu for joining me. If you are a member of the cannabis community and have a story you want to share with us, we would love to hear from you. You can reach the show at hashitout at TRICHOMES.com. You can help others find the show by taking a moment to subscribe to the podcast and write a review. You can also join the discussion with industry insiders and get your voice heard by joining the community at trichomes.com and following us on all social media. Hash It Out is produced by David Fortin and presented by trichomes.com. I'm RJ Balde. Thanks for listening.